Don't get me in the picture. Don't get me in the picture.
She's going to do it, isn't she?
Oh, Scutro's here.
No, I don't want to get in the picture.
Panavision.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise,
This left side doesn't end.
I know.
No, I'm the voice of reason. The shadow.
When you get beyond.
Exactly.
Welcome to the 7/12/2023 Planning Board Public Hearing. This hearing will come to order. The Lyman Planning Board is holding this public hearing to review the application of the Hidden Spa. This is a public proceeding unless the board specifically votes for an executive session. You have the right to everything that's being said and look at all the exhibits that are offered. Please notify the board chair if you are having difficulty seeing or hearing the presentation. This hearing is being recorded and televised on YouTube. All persons speaking will be asked to first state the name and address or affiliation. All questions or comments will be directed to and through the board chair. It is required that you sign the sign-in sheet to document your attendance at this hearing. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. All right, you ready to discuss it?
Would you do a roll call?
I can.
Kelly Demers, 10 Partridge Way.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Rod Tito, 357 Walker Road.
Bill Single, 8 Single Lane.
Kevin Vare, 64 Bugging Pond Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And they're here to discuss the project. The public hearing.
Is Dawn here? Yes, all right. Did you want a copy of your application and stuff?
My name is Dawn Brown. I live at 180 Old North Berwick Road in Lyman.
Can everybody hear her? Okay.
So basically, I am looking to open up an aesthetic spa right next door to 180, which is 186 Old North Berwick Road, which will provide aesthetic services such as Botox, dermafiller, Kybella, laser therapy, hair removal, microneedling, and there's a couple other certifications that I have as well that I'm all certified for. This is going to be a business that is not going to be busy in terms of traffic or need for parking. The clients should be booked appropriately, and I will do that so that there is very little overlap at all. I don't know what other questions that you have for me.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody on the board have any more questions?
Nope.
Does any of the public have questions or comments?
There's just one question with respect to administering Botox. Will
Yes.
that be for the treatment of migraines?
I do not currently, but I will be working with a physician to see about doing that. That's particularly quite specific and
Mhm.
probably should be done with a physician rather than a nurse. Because, yeah,
So am I hearing that you will be providing that service?
with more certification, maybe in the future, but not at this present time.
Okay. Would that qualify as a medical procedure as opposed to cosmetic aesthetic?
Yes and no,
Mhm.
because when I do put Botox in the frontal area,
Yep.
it can also block any occipital, any frontal headaches as well.
Mhm.
So it's a double. It's a cosmetic. I am not going to be doing it medically. I'm going to do it just cosmetically.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? The board or the public? Well, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I'm sorry. One
Anything else, Joe?
belated question. Did we get a plot plan or a site plan in the application? Because,
I don't know, but I asked one only because it's an existing building and nothing has changed from the
okay. Just that we have a photograph of the building.
Correct. Did
from
have a site
outside,
visit.
Just a basic diagram of the building and a view from above as to its location. And that will suffice?
I think so, Joe, because
Okay.
again, they haven't changed anything. We've already had that building there for 40 years plus.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I got a notation on number 20 that she's providing copies of licenses.
I'm providing, excuse me?
One of the notations I'm seeing on your application on the checklist, have a note to provide licenses, copies of licenses.
My RN license?
I gotta go back. This was notes from,
Maybe certifications?
I've got to go back to the notes, I just remember writing that down.
Yeah, that's very easy. I can just look up on
Maine.
maine.gov. You'll see my RN is active. Has never been any disciplinary action.
Okay.
But I can also, I know I have it in my phone. I can give you my RN number.
I've looked at licenses, so I'm not a problem. It's easy
Okay.
enough to do. That's all the notations I had that required the answer.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
You all set?
Mhm.
Welcome to the July 12th, 2023 meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will come to order. This is a public proceeding. Unless the board specifically votes to go to executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and look at all the exhibits that are offered. If the board votes to go to executive session, the reason for the same shall be stated. Please notify the board chair if you are having difficulty seeing or hearing. This meeting is being recorded for YouTube. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion which will be forwarded within 7 days. The board works with a prepared agenda will be considering this meeting's items in the following order. The Hidden Spa, then MX 207 to review application status. And
We have one on the subject, please.
we have one other subject at the end.
Better be.
All right, so if you want to come back up. All right, so we didn't seem to have too many complaints about this.
No, that's great.
Anything from the board?
All set?
Real simple.
Bill?
No, fine.
I'll make a motion that we grant the applicant's conditional use application
Second.
for the Hidden Spa.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're welcome. And you can pick up your paperwork in a week. We'll have it ready for you.
Perfect.
We're good.
Thank you very much.
Anybody want a card?
We'll call you when it's ready. They'll probably sign it next Wednesday, anything for it, so Thursday we would have it available. But I'll give you a call or send an email.
Appreciate it.
Good luck, hopefully you're successful.
Thanks. That's what I'm.
All right. MX 207,
So did we recognize Bill as a full voting member?
yep, we can tonight.
I'm sorry. I move that Bill Single be recognized as a full voting member for
Second.
tonight's meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Sorry.
you.
Formality,
Yeah.
procedure.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder, I think this subject is going to take a little while. Is it possible just to move the other subject items first, or would you rather keep it?
If you don't mind waiting a few minutes, would you mind letting somebody else go first?
Well, could you define a few minutes?
He says he's okay.
Is it okay? Okay, well,
Someone
we'll
else.
go with him first.
Thank you.
We'll go with you first. then.
Flashlights.
Lee J. Feldman from Southern Maine is here.
Yep.
To help us through this. If you could recognize him.
Yep. If you'd like to speak or anything first, we can.
Well, I'll just come up for a second right now, but good evening, board members, public. Lee Feldman from Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission. Basically, I have not gotten a lot of information. I have watched some of the video on here. I'll wait till you folks kind of move through this process and be happy to try to provide any guidance I can for you on where you're headed or what you feel you need to accomplish on this application.
Well, I think the biggest thing we had going on was the parking of the campers
That,
and fire access.
exactly.
And I don't know if we come up with a way to compromise or get something done.
I'm not sure, Vijay, you said you watched some of the videos, and I'm not sure, just a quick recap is that MX 207 has been licensed, that facility since 2006, I believe.
Three.
And it's recently came up that there's been some changes over there, so the planning board has decided to take a look at that. We've involved, the planning board involved the fire chief early on because he had some issues that he wanted, and he had reported that all of those have been taken care of. I think at this point, it's just, we don't understand the camping aspect. And I know that they, the owners apply to the state for event camping. I think they have to do that for every event. You can't get like a seasonal one or something. So does the town have any overview of that or any interest in how that process goes through beginning to end, or what do you advise?
I'll come up for a second. Great. So certainly the camping aspect of the operation is part of the overall operation. And when you're reviewing an application in front of you, there are a number of performance standards that you have to make findings of fact on. Under 8.3.6 in your ordinance, B 1 through 16, I believe it is, and it talks about will not create a safety hazard because of inadequate access to the site or buildings for emergency vehicles. So that's just one example, and there are other findings in here that you have to make. So in order for you to be able to make a positive finding that they have addressed that, they need to provide some sort of a plan to you that shows you that they have adequately provided a plan to do that, whether it is a site plan. I know again, watching the video from the other meeting, a site plan that lays out camping sites so that there can be a proven 20-foot separation between campers and fire rings or some sort of stone fire area that is acceptable to the fire department would need to be within their application, whether it is a part of a site plan or part of a written narrative saying that they will do that, so that you can make a positive finding on that part of the application. So that's what you're really ought to focus on, is going through those 16 performance standards in 8.3.6 and making sure that you're able to approve the project based on every single one of those findings. And in order to do that, there should be some information in the paperwork that would have been submitted to you to be able to say, yes, they have provided this information to us to satisfactorily address this issue.
Can I ask a quick question?
Certainly.
Go ahead.
Chairman, of course. And the town is a member of your organization.
Yes.
If, and I don't know if you've met Bill Stewart. Have you at all?
No, I have not.
You're Bill Stewart, this is.
How are you?
Okay, thank you. Sometimes, that's a big operation.
Yeah.
It's not something the planning board has done on a regular basis, and we want to do it right, we want to do it for all.
Yep.
And move on. Does your organization ever sit with the applicant and help him develop the information that we need to review?
No, I say no. If I were sitting down at the beginning of a process, I would explain to the applicant all of the types of things that they need in order to do that. I mean, I could certainly do that here, or have a meeting with Mr. Stewart if I need to talk about that. I think the critical piece, again, I haven't seen the whole file, but critical piece of the information is going to be some sort of a site plan that shows us the parking areas and has a narrative about how fire rings or whatever are going to be used at the camping areas. Maybe, excuse me, maybe having, I know parking seemed to be somewhat of a discussion point, of having a narrative that explains that there are parking ushers out on the site during events that are, moving people to appropriate parking areas and keeping spacing appropriate so that emergency vehicles can get through those areas. So there's a number of things that I can certainly talk with him about and sit down and spend a little bit of time on to work through that process. Again, I think one of the things I can't help with, and I know was again part of the discussion, was the issue of a concrete fueling pad, or some sort of pad where any kind of fueling would occur, so that if a spill or contamination occurs, it's not getting into the ground or groundwater that may be in that area. The only reason I can't help with that is because those are engineering details that would be designed and developed by an engineering firm. There's not a rocket science to that, but I just don't have that information in my purview.
That is the big thing, is the parking. That's the biggest holdup we have.
And that's something, I mean, again, I think if I were, which I do, represent the town and come in and meet with him, I could certainly sit down and we could work out a plan of attack. And again, most of it could probably be a written narrative that would come to you folks as part of your review and approval process.
If I could ask, the copy that we got of, from the state for the event that you applied for camping, you put that you expect 200 campers. Is that typical, or is that like one time a year, or?
There is no typical,
Okay.
seriously. I mean, it ranges anywhere from 20 to 200 is kind of a guess. 200 sounds like a lot. I don't think it ever gets to that range. But honestly, I've never actually counted them.
A lot of my concern, because I'm looking at it from a code enforcement perspective,
Sure.
is that you offer no septic facilities at all.
No what?
Septic facilities.
No, there's no septic,
And no water.
no water. It's a parking lot.
And so, for example, the campers, when they come in, they're coming in self-contained, so they're bringing in and taking out.
Correct.
And you don't provide any of those services in any way for the racers.
No.
Do you provide, for example, porta potties during events?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason I asked that question is because porta potties are not allowed to act as a toilet facility on a full-time basis. But if they're brought in for an event, taken out, and then brought back in for another event, they're allowed. It's what I would consider a one-day type of basis, but they're not allowed on a regular basis. So if he has an area that is accommodating a certain number of porta potties for an event, that's acceptable, provided the event or the area for those are laid out again on a plan or someplace on the site that is always consistently placed.
Bill, if you're not sure of the attendance that you're gonna have, it sounds like it's kind of a guess. And I did notice on some of the paperwork that you generally exceed the formula for porta potties. Like, you told, I think, one for every 50 people or something like that, and you were way ahead of that, so, and you just, is it the best guess?
In reference to what, the portable toilets?
Yeah,
Not really, based on 18 years of experience.
okay. But I think it's this type of thing that the board needs to see on paper, is what it is, because that's what they'll base their decision on. And that's what becomes part of your records.
Right, correct.
It is what we're looking for. Mhm.
Yeah,
I
some
guess one of the other questions I have for you is being able to look at that. Do you have a survey of the property or any site plan that we can start with to discuss that sort of thing?
Well, yes.
Okay.
I mean, those are all been submitted with the application.
Again, I haven't seen the application, I apologize, but.
There's aerial photographs
Mhm.
also.
Yeah, okay, I've seen that.
I also have this that shows parking.
There is a survey in the application.
Yeah, what we want to do is have some sort of a plan that would actually identify those areas on the plan. Certainly, the camper issue is an important one, simply because you don't want to identify a small area and say campers and then, be overrun with them during a certain event. It's better to plan for the worst and accommodate the best situation. So that's certainly something for consideration as well.
The original application, back in, I think, 2006, something like that, it was very comprehensive. There was a stormwater plan, and I would expect that maybe some of those plans are still pertinent.
Do you have that plan?
We do. Is that a good starting place?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, if that was part of the plan at the time and it was approved like that at the time, that's what should be out on the property now.
Yeah, keeping in mind that the physical layout of the track changes.
Sure.
Not every year, but occasionally.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that as I was asked to come here. I don't think the layout of the track is all as important as the facilities. Facilities being campground area, parking area, toilet facility area, or stormwater if there is stormwater. But the layout of the track is certainly something you get to play with all day long.
So
Go ahead,
I have a question. When you have an event, how do you know when you've reached the maximum number of campers and can come in that you can accommodate? Do you have a process to keep track of that?
Well, not really. We just keep spreading out further out into the parking area. Some of the areas are less desirable, flat, rut, muddy, different things like that. And if we start getting crowded, we're pushing people into places that they don't really prefer to be parked, but if we have to use it, we use it.
So do you have employees that monitor the activities in these areas to make sure nothing hazardous is taking place?
Well, we monitor which activities?
Any of the activities, whether it's the camper parking, campfires, fueling vehicles, or just plain parking?
Yeah, we normally have anywhere from 5 to 8 individuals on ATVs. I mean, it depends with the size of the event.
What I would personally like to see is a place where the campers are gonna park, no more than 200 spots for campers, then have the cars packed in another area, so the campers could be spread out and it's consistent. From what I saw when I was up there, if you wanna park over here, you park over here. there's no rhyme or reason to how they're parking you. You might have a camper with 4 or 5 cars around it, then another camper with maybe 15 cars there. It's not consistent. And there was no like layout up there, and I understand it's grass, you can't paint the grass or the gravel, but there's no consistency to it, to what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I've certainly been to my own events that I've gone to that have that kind of a situation, and you know, certainly there are using orange plastic tape, you know,
Or
and
the
stakes.
cones or
You can
something,
you can
yes.
lay stuff out. Would you expect to lay out all 200 parking areas? No, but if you lay them out so that you know front to back where they're going to be,
Right,
and just have someone make sure that they're
that's where the
lining up.
campers go.
Exactly, and make sure that they're lining up and that they're providing enough space in between during their campers being brought in. That certainly makes sense. I mean, does it make sense for the town to have to go out and measure 20 feet or 25 feet or whatever it may be between every camper? No, but at least if there's a plan in place and something that says that that's what they're going to do, if fire happens to go out to inspect and you got 4 or 5 campers that are like crunched right in together, creating a hazard, then there's a situation where they may need to realign them. But I don't think from an enforcement standpoint, it's something you need to go out and absolutely
No,
enforce.
but
But
it would be very nice to have a layout saying, we're gonna,
correct,
these are 200 spots for campers over here, that's it.
correct.
It's not a parking lot for cars to park. Because there was no order to it.
Right. And part of that becomes, I guess they get flyers when they come in for the event.
Right.
Part of it might be like camping rules. And it indicates that, here, follow so-and-so people for placing your campers. However, all vehicles must be parked in this in an area over, wherever. As part of the rules of people coming in to participate for the weekend.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that.
I'm
but that was
right
my
there with you.
biggest sticking point.
I'd like to see a plot plan showing the designated camping area with roughed-in sites, the designated parking areas, Lot A, Lot B, Lot C. I'd like to see on there the designated area for EMS services to be stationed. I'd like to see, I'm with Rod on the fuel pad, that's protecting the environment. One thing I just thought of, do you have your own security force? What happens if someone gets out of line? Is it just employees, or do you have trained personnel monitoring?
We do not have trained personnel hired specifically for security.
I don't know if you've had issues in the past with,
Well, we have had one issue in 18 years, and it was resolved quickly.
I'd like to see that the recommendations from the fire department are met. We had discussed at the site walk fire pits. That way they're in a designated area, and I do believe that may be one of the conditions for the temporary camping, I don't know. But contained fire rings, I think is important. I'd like to see in the camping area, you got your campers and then only have one vehicle in that spot. All others can go into a designated camping car parking area. So if you have a camper, they have one vehicle, and if that race team has 4 other members, they're not 5 vehicles on a camping spot. They go into a nearby camping spot. So that area is designated for people who are going to be camping there, but they're not crowding the site with vehicles. Because you crunch them up, you have an accident, one vehicle catches on fire, now you don't have 5 because they are separated, they're off. I'm looking for the safety of your establishment, your patrons, and the municipality.
Any other questions or comments?
Seems,
Bill? Go ahead.
I just have a couple of questions. Always thinking about mass casualty issues, not necessarily something really bad happens, but just small things like a propane leak on one of these big campers. They have pretty good sized tanks. What's the emergency plan for evacuations, especially if it happens in the middle of the night? Is there any emergency lighting that can be turned on? Are there like rally points for people to move to, or is it just a all free for all for people to get out of there?
Well, I don't like to use the word free-for-all. It has a certain connotation to it. But no, there is no evacuation plan with any lights or any of those types of things. I mean, if there were something going on, I mean, these are capable people. They're not a bunch of soccer moms that are just gonna freak out. Everybody has fire extinguishers. Everybody's just, familiar with those types of things. And I don't even know how to answer that. Hypothetically, I could just talk hypothetically all night long. But to answer your question, we do not have an organized evacuation plan.
Is there currently any set limits on the number of campers or people that can stay there during these weekends?
Well, it is a business, so keep in mind, we try to get as many people as we can.
But you mentioned that when things start getting packed in, you start pushing people further out into the woods and stuff.
We
That's,
got to the point last year where we put on Facebook, if you haven't left, don't come. And that's pretty much the best we can do. We have not allowed people to park on 202. We get them in off the road as efficiently as we can. Over the 18 years, the track has become popular. I mean, we operated in the red for a number of years, and we're getting to the point where, we're actually starting to show a profit the last 2 years. And every year the word gets out or spreads that, let's go to 207 on whatever particular weekend. But the best answer I have is last year, for the first time, we had to notify people that we were getting crowded, and if you haven't left yet, don't come.
That brings up an interesting point that I just thought of. As you plan and hopefully grow and prosper, you want to bring in more clients, more personnel, more visitors, more patrons and everything. I'd like to see also add a proposed expansion plan, additional parking, where do you want to grow to? You may not decide to grow the track. You may decide to grow the track. You may opt, all of a sudden I'm thinking Red Bull off-road racing course. You may want to add something like that, which I hope you do and be very successful, but expanded parking, expanded camping, overflow parking, something for you to consider. Because you have a big race, you get notarized, and say you're lucky and you have a notarized international celebrity star that decides to race. And he's gonna bring in 3,000 people because they follow him around. It'd be nice to say, hey, I can accommodate you because we'll open up.
I don't think we're as big as some people think we are, because I keep hearing these numbers of thousands of people. We don't get those kind of numbers. As far as growth goes, yes, we are trying to grow.
Yeah.
We are trying to grow financially, not necessarily volume-wise. Every year with campus is an up and down. We went through a financial period where people stopped driving their campers. The fuel expense or the cost of the camper, the numbers went way down. Now they're coming back up. It's a hard thing to predict.
It'd be great if you got a Red Bull.
The only thing that I can honestly say is that, yeah, we're always trying to improve our numbers and the quality of the people coming in, because it is a business.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a lot of expenses, and this year has not been favorable with the weather. One of the biggest factors, as you can imagine, but.
Mr. Stewart, there is a cap on the campers that can go in there because you're applying for 200.
Well,
You're not supposed to have more than 200 in there if that's what you're applying for.
Well, I'm not aware of that. I always thought 200 was a number that I just estimated at. I don't ever remember hearing
The thing
anybody.
is, we keep talking numbers and it's like, how do you keep track of it? We don't, but we think it's this number or it's this number. You either got to track it or you don't. There's a lack of
Nobody's ever
organization.
really asked me to provide an accurate number. It always comes up in conversation, and I do my best to answer the question.
You have a fairly good sized operation. There's got to be some organization there, and it looks like there isn't any organization. That's what I think is coming up in this conversation.
I think it's very organized. Honestly, I mean, all the safety factors,
I guess I'm missing something then.
well, I mean, all the safety factors over the years, we've always kept the roads open. There's always been the 20 or 25-foot pathways. There's never been any safety issues. We do a good job with the ambulances. We do a good job with interstates. I'm
How-
not sure
how come the
where this is all
questions of
coming from
concern-
here.
How come the questions of concern come up for the fire department to get access when people have said there's no way they can get in there, but there is no issue?
Well,
seems to me
well,
there
wait a
is
second.
an
Who said
issue.
they can't get in there?
In the conversations that have taken place, that has come up. And it was said there's no way to get a fire truck through there.
Well, I totally disagree with it, and I would question whoever said that. I adamantly and totally disagree with that. We had one issue about 12 years ago where there was an access problem with emergency, and it was all caused by all the different state police, sheriffs, fire department, everybody else. There was so many vehicles there that didn't need to be there. It was two brothers having a fight. And other than that, I can honestly say there's no access problems.
Oh.
And there haven't been.
Was your last name Feldman?
Yep.
I can't, Mr. Feldman brought up.
Lee, that's fine. I'm not a mister.
It's the organization part of it. How is
Yes.
it structured? And we're not seeing any structure other than, oh, this is the way it happens. And so far we've been lucky. And I think what Mr. Feldman is saying is we want to see the structure. We want to see how it's laid out, how it's going to operate. And we're not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my standpoint, I'm looking at it from the point of view of needing to provide you information for being able to satisfy all of those performance standards that you need to be able to approve it on. What that means on the other side of the corridor, if you will, is that there really needs to be some sort of a business plan. And that's why I'm saying a narrative. A lot of the stuff is narrative. It's a business plan. It's, for example, I'm going to go off the path for a second. I apologize. I'm dealing with another issue, another project in another community. And one of the things that the community is going to be asking the applicant for is daily reports of the number of trucks that are coming into a site and going out of a site. It seems to me that one of the first things that could happen here is a count of the number of campers and number of single cars, two rows on a piece of paper, number of campers, number of cars that are coming into the property for a weekend event. And that way you can start to see, and he can start to see from a business standpoint what the capacity levels are. It's not hard to do, but it might be something that needs to start so that whatever approvals you grant, if that's part of the approval process, then you revisit it in 2 years and see what the numbers have looked like. So then, if there's any expansion proposals or anything of that sort, you've got some numbers to work with as one item, one idea.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Bill, it seemed like you were approved for, I want to say 9 events a year, or is it 14 events?
Say again?
How many events do you host a year?
There is no set number. Could be anywhere from 10 to 18.
So do you know at the beginning of the season how many events, not counting weather, how many events you intend to sponsor?
We have a rough idea. We apply to the different organizations and they're the ones that award us the sanctions or the events.
And every event hosts campers.
Most of them. Trying to think if there's any that don't, but
So how do you apply to the state? I mean, how long does it take to apply to the state for every event? Because you can only do one event at a time.
if I could just mention, I mean, I have a 2023 camping permit from the state.
Seasonal permit.
Yes.
Oh, I had understood that you have to apply to the state for every event individually.
No, they ask you for a proposed schedule. And when I applied, I told them I don't really know the exact numbers, but there will be roughly this many from this period to this period. And apparently they were okay with it because they sent me the certificate in the mail.
Was that Mr. Sullivan from?
Yes, it was.
And
Or
I'm sorry,
Scott Taylor's possibly.
just a quick one. Would it be correct to say you had 9 events scheduled for this season? Does that sound right? 9? Yeah, okay.
I
Thanks.
know we're low this year, just economics.
Just state your name first.
Sure, it's Matt DeRoss, the fire chief. Is it Mike Sullivan that we spoke with from the state? Mike Sullivan from the state, we met with him. I've only had a phone conversation with Mike and he seemed to be satisfied with the operations that he knows of that's going on there. And then to speak to the letter I wrote back in April, I believe it was, with a list of concerns. I feel that those concerns are currently being met and I'm satisfied. I hope what he's doing up there, he continues to do to satisfy the fire department's concerns. And I think maybe to help clarify this a little bit, I think what they're looking for you to do is just write down what they're doing. Because again, only
I didn't
on
really
my
know.
concerns, I'm only gonna speak to those. I think you guys are doing what you need to do to run a safe operation there. So they just need to have that in writing and a plan so that they.
Yeah, it seems like taking maybe the original layout that was submitted, modified to show designated areas for camping and such. Have in the flyers that are distributed instructions of the distance, or at least the preferred distance between the campers. Maybe in the narrative, something about evacuation plans in case of emergency for
At
overnight
least have
stays.
exercise out.
Just the basic means of tracking the numbers of vehicles and campers, and just in the narrative as well. And understanding that the Goodwin's Mills Fire Department will periodically, weigh in on the progress of making modifications that ensure the safety of the participants.
I've said it before, I mean, I'm totally on board with operating within everything that the planning board requests, within reason.
Good question. Now, you said you had 8 to 18 events during the course of the year, depending on
Possibly.
the number that you get awarded. Say someone wants to, you don't have an event scheduled this weekend. Someone wants to go up and practice. Are they gonna be allowed to camp on a non-sanctioned event weekend or during the week?
In the past, we have allowed them to do that, yes.
Just something to take into consideration if we're getting a plan together that you would
It's not
say.
camping though, we tell them it's overnight parking. No, I'm serious, because
Walmart.
it's very similar. I mean, yeah, people drive up from New Jersey, Ohio, they come from all over the country.
I understand, I just would like to see it addressed.
They're self-contained, and there's lots of rules. They know the rules. it's not just our campground. I mean, this whole motocross thing is the scene that goes on around the country. What goes on around the world? And if you're not involved in it, you don't realize how large it actually is and how important it is and how many families are involved in it. What am I getting at? I forget what the question was.
It is, I
People
know
come
it's
too
big,
far away and they can't, yes.
but we're truly worried about yours.
Yeah.
Yours is the one we're concerned about.
I understand. So the answer to
I
your
mean,
question
Joe
is-
gave you a pretty thorough list of what we'd like.
Yeah.
Narrative, like we'd like you
Well, I mean, I'm
to have it written out, we'd like to see the parking areas.
Yep.
On paper, and maybe put your road on there, just show the
I'd
road.
like to see that list presented to me if possible. On paper.
Good.
Because I'm a checkbox type person.
No, that's great.
I got a bad memory. Yep. I'm gonna forget half of this when I leave here.
Julie could email you a list that the board has come up with, if that's the trash.
Yeah, we just want you to have a fun, safe, profitable venture.
As far as the number though, I don't want it to be misunderstood or I don't want to be misunderstood that we're applying for 200 campus. I
I
just.
believe that number came from you.
Say again?
I believe you came up with that number.
Well, I probably did, but it was an estimate, a wild guess. I would suggest taking one of these pictures with all the campers on it and I can count them. And maybe I'm over, maybe I'm way under. I don't honestly know. We keep track of wristbands, which is the number of people. We don't keep track of the number of vehicles. And I mean, we are organized. Within our own organization, we do have a plan. We have a good staff of people and they're people that have been there right from, some of them from right from day one. I mean,
So maybe copies of whatever written instructions you have for the employees, maybe a sample of the flyers that are distributed to the participants coming in. Include that in what you submit, along with the narrative on.
if it's something you would like, sure.
So you say that you keep track of wristbands. Can we get a count on the events over the last 2 years? How many wristbands?
If you don't share them with the IRS or anybody.
Brenda?
Can I just say, Joe, I think the divide here is that, you're right, the everyday person doesn't understand your process. And it sounds like you have a good process that you've developed over the years. I think the planning board is just asking you to put that on paper. They're not asking you to change anything necessarily, but to put on paper what you do. It doesn't have to be engineered or anything like that. The reason why we're here now is because the town didn't realize that there was camping going on up there. And it's important for the infrastructure here to understand what's happening in town. The fire chief needs to know what's happening in town. I need to know what's happening in town. And it's not that they want to dictate to you or change what you're doing. They just want you to put on paper what you're doing. Am I right? Am I close?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of this in your
Yes, sir.
files? I think, a good part of the stuff that's being discussed here tonight is pretty much in here. Now, if some of it's changed, that's okay. But I think what they need is a new submission of some of that information. And I'm talking the front part. You've got a piece in here about emergency services, you've got safety and insurance, you've got a layout, which, goes a long way in doing exactly what they're looking for. Parking and traffic plan. And if it's modified or changed at all, I would, take this as a starting point and just redo that.
Just tweak it.
I think that would get you a long way in being able to accomplish what they need in order to adequately approve and understand what's going on up there.
We can make a copy of that. You said you have one, or would you like me to mark up? I mean, whatever works for you.
That's our only copy here and there. That I found in this office.
So I'm gonna come back to you.
That's still my copy.
I know what happens when copies disappear.
I do have a copy of it. like I said, if you want to provide me with a list of all these things, I'll be glad to provide you
Yep.
with whatever you want. My only concern, and I get very sensitive, this is not a big money operation. We operate on nickels and dimes. And all these things that cost me money, especially this year, this is not a good year, I'm starting to get a little worried. Honestly, personally. Even the talk of the 20 feet between campus is a worry for me, because if that cuts down on the number of people coming in, that's revenue. And
No, it's got to for safety's sake. I mean,
I just have a hard time with this whole safety thing. I'm looking at it, and I'm not a fire chief, and I know when you're in that environment 24/7, it's one thing. I go to races all over the country. My son goes to races all over the country. I've never, ever heard of any problems of these types anywhere. And I'm not trying to convince you of something that, if you think it's not safe, I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just saying what I see. It's not ever been a problem anywhere that I know of. And we are competitive. We're a track. We try to compete with the other tracks in Maine that do things pretty much the same way. And, I don't want to just keep talking because I sound to myself like I'm trying to sell you on something. I'm not. What we do is what we do, and I think we do it well. We do have a good organized thing. I took a little bit of offense saying, hearing that we weren't organized or didn't have a plan. We do have a plan. I've had a plan since day one, and it's been a struggle making it happen. And Danny will probably be the next guy you talk to here, so.
Speaking of your success, have you planned on expanding into possibly winter activities, winter competitions?
We've considered over the years, but it's too hard to make money.
You mentioned Red Bull, I shoot for Red Bull during the winter, so I've got winter work and I don't have any intentions of doing any winter activities. We work our tails off all summer long, come fall, it's nice to kind of rejuvenate, recharge the batteries,
Because of bike competition, snowmobile
get
racing.
ready for the spring.
We have looked into that, but you don't get enough snow here. You have to truck it or import, and when the diesel fuel went crazy, that eliminated that. The jumps on the tracks and stuff in the winter, the wind blows the snow off them. You're better off with a flat parking lot. There's people that do it, there's people that do it better than us, let them do it.
Okay, so Joe, you're gonna send a copy of,
This
Julie?
list to Julie. Yep.
so she can make sure he gets it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
we'll wait for you to do what we asked for.
remember that, and your motion was to October, that's coming really.
Right, it
quickly.
is.
So do you have a time frame that you'd like to,
I'd like to see it within the next 4 weeks.
is that feasible?
Good. I got nothing else to do.
With it raining, you.
Keep in mind, it's me and Danny and a small staff of very efficient people. And we're not a Dearborn, we're not Dayton. We got a small budget. We're working with nickels and dimes. The economy, everything that's going up in price, we can't charge more money than we charge. We're regulated to some point by the organizations that come in to sanction the races, whether it be AMA, NESC, MMX, there's several organizations. I've gone to meetings. I'm supposed to be at one tonight out in Southwick, Mass. And I'm trying to get them to give me an extra $5 for people coming in, and it's a big stink. So money is a big issue with us, and all these things that sound easy to do are not always easy to do. Take the pad, for instance. Right now, I'm looking for a contractor, but between the weather and what have you, and cement people, and plus nobody's working for nothing nowadays. So, I mean, we have that in progress, but it hasn't been done yet. the fire dry hydrant thing, whatever you call it, that's in place, it's 95% done. I gotta get the fencing back around it and stuff like that, but it's functional. Conan will come flow it, make sure everything's good.
Okay, does the board have any more questions or comments, Mr. Stewart?
None that I can think of.
All right, so we'll wait for you to get that done.
I'll pass the checklist over to Julie. Julie will send it to you,
I'll send a copy to you too.
and
All right,
4 weeks
Thank
down
you
the
very
road.
much.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
President of the Lyman Snowmobile.
What's your name?
Brian Duwan. We met.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, next guy.
Okay, so, what I've come to you tonight, I don't know how many people are aware that the town does have a very close relationship with the Sanford YMCA. Julie and I were gonna do the dance, we decided not to. I've been done before, right?
Ad nauseum. I love my job and the organization that I work for.
Let me get on my phone. We all can get up and have a little party.
So,
Stretch a little bit.
of course, they run the programs over at the Lebanon Park and have for a very long time, and it's what they do. And they have proposed, they'd like to look at doing a similar program on a private property here in town. And it's just come up, and I advise that it would be a site plan review before the planning board. It's just, that I told them that timing was horrible, but they'd like to do a presentation on what they'd like to do, and then you can decide what. I'm all done.
Okay, so we can step up and.
So Andy Arazi, I'm the CEO of the Sanford YMCA. As Brenda said, we've had a long-standing relationship with the town of Lyman running Buckernut Park and also running our day camp there. We've been with Buckernut Park, I think our contract started in I think it was 1997 or something. So it's been a long time. I'm sorry, 207. And then recently, over the last 10 years, we've been running our day camp out there as part of our contract. So it's been a long-standing relationship, very solid. I think our operations of running and operating a day camp are completely solid. We had this opportunity that opened up to us with a landowner that wanted to have someone providing specialty camps or summer day camps for kids. He approached us many years ago, and we were in the process of beginning that and having more discussion and usage of his property. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's well managed. It's really a unique opportunity. And as an organization, we wouldn't partner with anybody that we didn't feel would operate in a similar manner that we do, which is best practices. And so in that, this past year, we were thinking pre-COVID that we would be kind of moving forward, but COVID hit, and this year was our opportunity to move forward with this individual. So what we'd like to do is to operate a day camp for 1 week this summer as a pilot program in testing the partnership between us and the landowner. So what we came up with as a plan was to run 3 specialty camps for older youth. And our regular camp is for youth in kindergarten through 5th, 6th grade. We're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more advanced for that 5th to 8th grade group, which kind of gets lost in the summertime. Sometimes they feel a little bit too old and don't want to come to a day camp, a traditional day camp, but something that's a little bit more focused and directed is something we thought would be enticing to them. So what we're looking to do is to run 3 different specialty camps. One is called Alluring Art, and that focus would be specifically for individuals and the kids in that group that would be doing a lot of different art medias, painting with different watercolors or acrylics, doing Crayolas, pottery, mosaics, just a different alignment of I would say art, not necessarily crafts, but art. The other one that we're looking at is called the Creative Minds, and that's really a STEM type program where we'd be doing smaller apparatuses that we would be building, talking about little solar cars, building a small solar car, testing it out and doing different things like that. It could be, if you remember the old days for some of us, which we might align pretty well with as peers. The old little boats you put with the rubber bands and you put a wheel on it, see how far you can get it. Building similar things that might maybe a little bit more advanced than that. And just have a lot of fun around the science, and it's very an educational piece. And then the final piece would be what we're calling the Great Outdoors. Great Outdoors would be a combination of some watercrafts, and all the watercrafts are the canoes, kayaks, paddleboards, teaching boat safety, teaching emergency rescuing, all those types of things that come along with it. Might be some fishing involved in that. There's also would be some conversations and programming that would talk about planning a hike and dealing with some wilderness experiences, some how to build a fire, how to build a shelter, and then if you're in a jam, something happens, what are the unforeseens? Being prepared. So we've got those 3 camps already aligned programmatically. The why is our organization is, and RY has really worked hard at managing programs that would be best practices. So all of the programming is one piece of it. The planning and organizing around the safety is a whole another piece, which we've already kind of put into action. And we're duplicating many of the things that we have at our regular day camp in this also. So it's really still a day camp situation, just for the older kids and much smaller. Our day camp program over at Buckernut is 200 kids. This would be 35 to 40 kids. The youth that we're looking for is a combination of, because it's a higher level experience, and we're bringing in specialists to run that program, teachers and art professionals, and then our own team of lifeguards and staff would be to make sure that there's a real safe environment, number one. Number two would be an amazing experience for these kids. 50% of our kids, if not more, are kids that are probably low to moderate incomes, or some sort of family dynamics that's creating challenges for these kids in schools. We were blessed with a donation to help support kids and send them to camp at no cost at all, or a very good reduced price if they're already, depending on where they sit within the economic piece. So that's what we're looking at right now. We think we've done a really good job, and Brenda and Matt could speak to the visit we had today to look at the property, to walk through all of the things that we've managed and thought about. There's only a couple things that were minor that we will adjust for today or tomorrow. The challenge is I didn't realize that we needed to come to this level. And there is an urgent matter because we've already had it planned and we're planning it for next week. So yeah, I know. I completely apologize. Had no idea that was the
So
situation.
you're looking for permission to do this for a week?
For a week, a pilot program, and then in the future, if this pilot program works out with us and the landowner, and we want to take it to another level next year, we'll go through the whole process appropriately of what we need to do.
And it's going to be staffed by YMCA members?
Matt is, come on.
I've worked really hard in the planning and processing to find the level of expertise for each of those 3 sort of content areas, I guess, because we are really looking to do a lot of education in the experience that we're doing. So bringing in some really high level adult professionals, Eagle Scouts and Massabesic Middle School science teachers, and Sanford Middle School art teachers that are like really excited to on a different level than they're allowed to in a public school setting, provide some knowledge and expertise, and really get some kids that otherwise may not have the opportunity to get. It's called focused fun, because that's exactly what it is. They're going to be focused in on art. They're not going to have to go to a summer, a traditional summer day camp, I would say, is more like a smorgasbord of opportunity and activity.
Right. Find something they're interested in.
Yeah, and now they're into it. They know they love art. Every chance they get at our summer day camp, they're like itching to get into the art cabin. Those are the kids that are registering for the Alluring Arts program.
So is there going to be more than one person to watch all these kids?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, we have 2 art teachers coming in, and that Alluring Arts actually is the largest group of showing the most interest. Right now, that number of children that are looking to experience that art camp next week is about 17. So we have 3 staff for 17 kids, which is far beyond, any ratio that, we would need to meet, per the guise of the state and childcare and things like that. And then the other 2, for a variety of different reasons, didn't get as much excitement as we would have liked to have seen, which is why this pilot program is so important, so that we can get some good photos and get some good testimonials and get some really good firsthand experiences of what this is going to be like to, potentially, if we decide to move down the road or add it, in other locations potentially, or, expand it. We have some real good evidence, exactly like we were talking about in the previous situation. We want some real good evidence, numbers, photographs, videos, testimonials. So the other 2 are a little smaller. There's only about 8 to 10 kids registered in each of those 2 STEM and outdoor camps respectively. And we have 2 staff per 8 to 10 kids, the expertise, and then our YMCA trained summer camp staff coming in to support the expert, which, I feels, I don't want to downplay the skill set of a 8th grade science teacher at Massabesic Middle School, who's an absolutely fantastic young man, 24 years old, just got his first job out of college teaching science at Massabesic Middle. He could absolutely handle the 8 on his own. He handles classrooms of 25 at the middle school. But I'm still going to provide him, that opportunity, so that in case, one of the 10 are cutting it up a little bit, my staff can pull that out to not take away from the experience for him, and then the others who want to engage in that process.
And you feel comfortable, the fire department,
Yes.
if something happens, you get in there to help?
And I think the other piece that we can talk about is we will have certified first aid CPR individuals on hand all the time. All of our safety medical procedures that we take care of normally will be in action. And we'll also have lifeguard on duty all the time for any of the water events that are going on.
So do you have any questions or comments?
Well, I think 3 things would be, 1, where and how many kids. We got the when, we got how many kids, and whereabouts, or is that can that be divulged? Private property? No.
We weren't going to say the site of public only to keep the privacy for the private property owner, but the site is beautiful. I'll tell you, I wish I could go again.
No, no concerns, butters, neighbors, kids coming in.
And the children are being bussed in, one bus out, so that doesn't
Okay.
increase the traffic.
Mhm.
They don't serve the meals, the children ground bag their lunches. They'll provide the water that they need. And it's all, I asked about, trash and things, and it's carry in, carry out, that's what they're learning.
There's enough bathroom facilities,
Bringing in porta potties.
porta potties, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, in the same ratio, similar to the previous situation, it's 1 to
1 to
50. 1 to 50 for a porta potty, with regular cleaning, of course, and servicing. So we're gonna bring in 3, just because of the area that we're gonna cover and where campers and staff will be. We don't wanna have them to walk, 200 yards back to the porta potty if they're engaged in an experience, and we'll provide them some closer opportunity.
This property is the entire cove. There really are no neighbors.
Okay.
And the other piece of this too is, for those that haven't been experienced with any of our Y programming, we have a very, very specific child-safe environment practice with code of conduct, expectations, rules of engagement, all those types of things are really very thoroughly overseen, because it is our, safety is our number one, and the safety of children is even more highly focused on.
And access to the property they've provided, it's only just one route in, and they've provided that no one can get past this point without registering. So there'll be no one just off the street stopping in.
Okay.
And it looks like they thought of everything. They really have.
What are they classifying this as? What, I'm trying to
I know.
fit it onto what we have, because as you know, if it's not listed, we can't, so we gotta find.
The reason, and honestly, this came up, 5 o'clock last night. So we really put.
And the reason that this came up is because I called to say, hey, I just want to let you know that this is
Courtesy.
occurring,
Yeah.
to let you know that in case there's neighbors questioning what's going on this piece of property,
Mhm.
it will be us, right? So, and at that point is when Brenda said, oh my.
Yeah,
And
I
I
can
said,
see.
oh my what? And I said, so I want to commend both Brenda and, I call Chief, what do you want to call him? Yeah, Matt. For coming over today so quickly to work with us and to walk through everything, and to help us move forward with this opportunity. And, you know, really just,
I haven't done my research in that area. I mean, I'm just hinging my request to you to consider this on the fact that it's already being done at Lynn.
all of our insurances, all those types of things that you might want
Well,
to
you
consider.
can put this under outdoor recreation.
That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Let's do that.
I'm good with that.
Mhm.
So if this is very successful, let's hope so, because I think this is a great opportunity. And they decide that they want to try it next year on an
full
accelerated
plan.
level, then I told them that, you know, they really need to get in here and get it done because it'll take a couple of months to get
Oh,
the
yeah.
site plan
Most
review.
definitely.
And,
And we'll know, it won't take long for us to know and determine if it's been successful and if it's something we want to continue to pursue, and we'll get right at it, so that way we're not backed up
You know,
against
if
it.
it gets successful, would you consider also partnering? I can't even speak, partnering with Benefit Y? Opportunity
Probably
program.
won't happen that way, just because of our lines of service.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that we wouldn't open our doors to anyone that wants to come in.
Okay.
We don't, on the service area issue is that we don't actively publicize our programming going into their area or vice versa.
Okay.
But we do know that people make choices based off of whatever they're interested in doing. So we're not going to stop somebody who's from, the service area. Ours is Lyman all the way over, all the way down to New Hampshire, all the way down towards the ocean, through Wells and then down. So that's our service area. It just happens that we board very closely with Northern Weaver County, White City, for a while. And they're aware that we're running this program. So, but we would open that door. I mean, this year, many of our kids are coming in from this local area, but we would reach out to the other school district, Massabesic, Noble, in a more effective way to draw in more of those kids and more of those local opportunities.
Cool.
I think it's good to know that the property owner not only offered the use of his property for a whole week in the summer, but has also offered to sponsor many of the children himself. So, there's some vested interest.
Well, I personally feel comfortable
Same.
letting them do this for a week.
Yeah, pilot program, and if it's successful, then they come back with a full-blown plan. And if it, God forbid, it's not successful, you're not out a lot of time developing the plan.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, so what were the dates you wanted to do this?
The 17th to the 21st, next week.
All right, so I'll make a motion that the planning board allows this to go on from the 17th to the
21st.
21st.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor of allowing this?
Aye.
Not going to landscape.
Thank you all, I really appreciate that.
No, you
Thank
guys
you very
are
much.
great. Thanks, you guys.
I heard you.
Thanks for putting up
It's
this.
gonna be
And once again, thank you both for coming out and helping us so quickly on this.
I've benefited for years from the Boy Scout camp, so
Yeah.
YMCA is also great.
Thank you.
Do you have any information about the local Boy Scout Troop 399 that I used to be a part of back in the day? Is that still exists here in Lyman?
I was in Biddeford, I was a 308 guy.
Okay.
I've got daughters.
Yeah.
By the way, I will open this up. If you know of a youth between 6th and 8th grade, entering those, or 5th, going into the 8th grade, that might be fitting into a low, moderate income, really broken home sort of situation, let us know. We still have a handful of spots left and would love to fill those spots. It just dawned on me as we're sitting here, I'm always just outreaching. Just let us know. I mean, we have to get the paperwork done right away, by Friday. But if you know of that, and there's someone that's interested, and you would let me know what their situation is, you can connect with Matt or I.
Folks out in TV land as well.
Yes.
What's the ages again?
5th through 8th grade.
Fifth and eighth?
So entering next school year, students entering 5th through 8th.
And now that you've made your votes, we didn't want to influence you at all. And Matt is a local guy, he grew
Oh, you know.
up here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to introduce him, and you know his mom very well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up ahead of time.
Oh, that might have swayed the vote.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Me and my mom's Priscilla Willette, so maybe no, I swung it the other way.
What's your requirements for, when you mentioned outdoors? I mean, you was a huge outdoor guy.
Yeah.
The requirements for getting recognized or being allowed to teach.
So, in this particular case, I looked for somebody that had some real, outdoor, I was looking for like maybe a main guide that wasn't overly busy in the summer, and then actually came across a local real estate agent in the city of Sanford who was an Eagle Scout and was active in the Boy Scouts his entire life. And as soon as I put that on his radar, he
He
went
jumped on.
home, dove
Fantastic.
right back into his Eagle Scout work, and like came over with his like kerchiefs and stuff, and like all the badges, and he was like, "I'm telling you, I'm ready to go." And I'm like, "Okay, you're the guy. Like you're the guy." Like, and I'm like, "These are the sort of things that I envisioned as I'm like dreaming and planning this whole thing." And he's like, "Yep, got it on it. See it right here." Like, I'm like, "All right, ready, set, go." And then my sisters both teach at Massabesic High School, or work at Massabesic High School, and the assistant principal there was chatting with my sister, who's one of the administrative folks in the office. And his son is the science teacher from Massabesic Middle School, who was looking for some summer work, or his dad was looking for some summer work for him. Mr. Fitzlevich and I laughed about that a little bit, but we got a phenomenal young man, Gunnar Fitzlevich, who's a science teacher at Massabesic Middle, and was really excited to build solar cars and talk about the power of solar, and really starting to connect some real upper level concepts to kids that are really starting to get into that engineering world, and talk about ballast and boats and build some Cartesian divers and things like that and stuff. Mr. Wagner, I'm sure remembers.
Well, as for science, social science.
Social science.
And I had checked with Lindsay just to make sure that the town would be on board with whatever the board recommended, and she supported it.
All right.
We've got all
Good.
the bases covered.
Excellent.
Well, I hope you have a successful program.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
Let's do
that. Appreciate your time this evening. I know that surprise addition to the agenda after.
No problem.
It does say subject to change.
Yeah.
Well, not the vote, right?
Yeah.
No,
No, not the vote.
that's all.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Some of you should come back for a vote.
Before you close.
Yeah.
For Monday.
We got this email from Mr. Feldman
Mm-hmm.
that about the Margaret fines.
Maybe I'll come see you around.
Because he works with the town of Waterboro, and
Nope.
Okay.
if you want to read it out.
From Leo J. Feldman, this is Brenda. I've been drawn into the Bartlett Pines matter since I am the contract planner for Waterboro. I've been doing research on this issue for Waterboro in order to assist the planning board. I've also had email conversations with Natalie Burns, who is not only SMPDC legal, but is also Waterboro legal. Natalie weighed in on this matter back in 2009 when the subdivision Phase 3 was being vacated. It is the opinion of both Natalie and I that since phases 1 and 2 are in Waterboro, this is an alignment issue to work through. Since the cistern matters in Phase 3 and only in Lyman. In the meantime, the planning board would be willing to attend the meeting next week unless the Lyman Planning Board is willing to sign off on not having to have a joint meeting for this matter. None of the current board members that were around at the time of the approvals and have no history of the project to offer an opinion. I will also attend the meeting on the 19th in order to be part of the discussion. See you this evening, Lee J. Feldman.
And your attorney will be here as well.
Yep.
For next week?
Yes, 19th.
Mhm.
Would you like this back for the record?
No, I have more if you want to keep it, anybody wants to read it. And I just reached out to Angela, who does my job in Waterboro,
Yep.
Mhm.
which is how all the discussion got going between Waterboro Planning Board and Mr. Feldman. So it's up
So,
to you.
Do we need to make the Waterboro Planning Board come down here? I don't really think so. It is in alignment.
That part is in alignment, but the demand on goods and services is Waterboro.
It is true.
I will tell you, I have not been able to find anywhere, and I don't know if I, in this town hall, I cannot find the records for subdivisions. Attorney Warren would really like to review the minutes, because I think what it all comes down to is whether the decision to require a cistern was to support phase 1 and 2. There's nothing on the plans about that, the recorded plans. But I can find nothing. And it was what, 2002, I think, might have been 2004.
Yeah, so back around that time, I think they were transferring records from the old town hall to the new town hall, putting them all digital. And then they had the fire down there. And I don't know what's lost and what's not lost.
We can't find, for any subdivision in this town, we can find no records. I was going to find out from Lindsay if there's any kind of a list for the storage unit, maybe. But really, subdivision records should be in-house, really.
Might there be anything registered in Alfred?
We got the plan for phase 3 and the plan for phase 2. There was nothing recorded for phase 1. I couldn't find it, the attorney couldn't find it. And I just, when I think of phase 1, 2, or 3, I think that that's one subdivision
Right.
with 3 phases.
Exactly.
So if you have a condition on phase 2 and phase 3, doesn't that affect phase 1 and 2 unless
Right.
it says differently? I mean, it's how I think.
Although I'm with you, Rod, I don't think meeting with the Waterboro Planning Board on this one is a necessity. But I think maybe heads up to the homeowners association folks who were here last time.
Right, it probably should be.
I'll email you phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
You're right, Joe, it's gonna affect them more than it is us.
Yeah, so, out of fairness.
I think the key is, I still think of this as one subdivision. No matter what happens.
I can speak on it because it's the past 5 years. I know, performing professional services in that subdivision, that one of the contingencies at that point was successful completion of the subdivision per the plans and specifications, which included the installation of the cistern. Because at the time, clients were wondering, and we had to put note adequacy of fire services. And one of it was cistern on site. So there's a lot of money out there that was lent with the stipulation of that cistern be installed because it was so close. Without that, their distance and their time for emergency responders is greatly increased. Hence, insurance goes up, mortgage rate goes up, everything goes up. I know that, and I've done properties in there. That was condition of mortgage, condition of construction.
So even the minutes for when you discuss the termination, I can't find it. And the termination statement says, reviewed by the planning board, was signed by Rod. And
Yeah, it was so long ago, I vaguely remember doing that.
yeah, but you won't remember what
Right.
the discussion was at the meetings. And this is what the attorney would really like to review. I just can't find it.
Would it be true to say that the initial responsibility for installing the cistern was the developer in the first place, and the developer is no more, at least as a viable business? Or is, I got that impression from State
And-
Gadro.
This really all should have been taken care of before it was signed out of being a subdivision.
Yeah.
It wasn't minutes on this. And that's the problem. What was discussed, what were the terms at the for the termination. I don't know, and I think the fact that we can't find it, I still think of phase 1 and 2, like you said, maybe they got a mortgage break because it was like a cistern, or, maybe, they feel, they're miles from any fire department.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Along those lines, what do you think of asking Matt Boers to weigh in their professional opinion? Do they have the apparatus to respond there? Is this a cistern or maybe something else on site would, something other than a cistern might suffice?
And of course, that was before, the requirement of spring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the price tags of these things, Bill, I think you mentioned a rather hefty.
Hefty,
I read somewhere they figured $1 a gallon, so it'd be $20,000.
No, for the cistern?
I don't know when that formula was devised, maybe with the change in economy, it might be double that, I don't know.
Would the homeowners association be eligible for in other words, a municipal bond or loan?
Or grant.
Yeah, kind of looked into that already. I contacted Henry Ingwersen and Shelley Fingery's office. And at least at the federal level, it's a competitive process that's already closed right now for the year. And although we were successful in getting some federal dough for the expansion of the fire department building over here, it's a real shot in the dark. And nothing particularly at the state level comes up. But someone did mention that we have a municipal bond agency. And again, that's why I asked, would a homeowners association qualify for that? And if so, maybe alleviate the cost spread over time for all the residents there, both Waterboro and Lyman.
Per the plan, I believe is the owners of two lots.
B, which is Mr. Woodrow's lots.
Right. Was responsible for it. Whether the owners of the rest of the subdivision would want to step up and contribute. That way there, they can,
Still all benefits.
make sure that their insurance knows that now they are up to snuff, that they are within several hundred feet of hydrant water versus ours.
And we can ask Matt, maybe with today's equipment, maybe it's no problem that we.
I think there's actually a hydrant right on 202 across the town line. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's a,
yeah, right by Edge Grove.
yeah, into the pond. So that,
That's good to know. Things like that. That's still quite a ways away.
About 3 miles, isn't it?
It's gotta be at least.
Long hose
I don't know.
or pumper truck. I don't know.
So do you want Waterboro to cover it up?
I would like to discuss this with them, get their, they're saying it's in our, yes, those lots are in the town of Lyman, but the affected parties are also predominantly in Waterboro.
It was a collaborative process
Right.
in the beginning.
Right.
I mean, I don't know, maybe do you just want to listen to your attorney and then decide if you need to meet with Waterboro or if you need your attorney and your fire chief? I don't know, it's up to you.
I'd like the legal opinion, can they just void it and be done with it?
But I think Joe was right. It should kind of be up to the people in that homeowners association from Waterboro. Because it is in Waterboro, and they're the ones that would be affected.
Vested interest.
It's kind of,
Jay says he'll be here next week.
I don't want them to feel like we're shutting them out.
No,
And they were invited and they pretty much said, we don't think we need to open. I think Lee J is the town planner for Waterboro.
Yep.
Okay.
That maybe he and your attorney maybe all you need at this point. It's up to you. I mean, we can certainly put the offer out.
Yeah, I mean, if Lee can speak for official capacity for the town of Waterboro, including planning board and everything else, that's fine, if he wants to speak in that capacity.
Bill, opinion?
I agree with Brenda. To me, it's all one project.
It is one
And,
project.
And how they could just let it go without looking at those contingencies is a little bit surprising, but I don't know, what do you do at this point? You know?
I don't think it's fair that we make a decision that really has minimal effect on Lyman residents, but a possible major effect on
So
Waterboro
do we want
residents.
their planning board here or not? Or do we want their planner?
I say invite them, say we'd like to have a good open discussion on it. Express our concerns.
Do you have a big agenda next week?
I don't believe so.
I have no idea. Oh, yeah.
This one was supposed to be short and sweet. This one was supposed to be short and sweet. It was just a public hearing.
Stuff comes up all the time.
Oh, I
Who
know.
is this
What did I tell you?
I know.
Just outlandish things that you just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Make the
Well,
invitation. Okay.
I think we should invite their board.
And
That's
the,
my personal opinion.
and the HOA as well, even if they declined.
Yeah, that's their choice, but
They
we'll
live
invite
there.
them.
And, can we keep the agenda really light for next week? If somebody comes in, can we take it for the next meeting and?
Yes,
If nothing
Less
critical,
vital?
yes, we will. Anything else?
Just getting back to the list of things for Mr. Stewart. I'd be most comfortable typing this up, sending it out to everybody. Julie in particular, but if anyone sees something that's missing or
Yeah.
wants to modify
Wants
it,
to
they
add
can do
on.
so. Just do that.
sounds good.
And did we ever? I'm sorry for asking. Notice of decision for Miss Marquardt. Did that go out? Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Just-
Oh, it didn't go on.
No, Brenda keeps finding all these problems and it's really taken a lot of our time and I forgot all about it.
sorry. Okay.
I think the 16 items ought to be part of what's sent to Bill,
Good point.
because those are the
16 standards.
16
yes.
standards. You know, I didn't want to come across that I felt that they were disorganized, but they sound like they're disorganized.
I think what they do works,
Mm.
and it has for a long time. And I think if they put it on paper, maybe you could put it in perspective better.
Hmm.
It's like anything, if you don't put it on paper, it's really hard to discern, so I think you'll find that.
We were looking at this, which was found online, which is, I don't know if it was an event weekend or whatever, but you can see the disorganization in the
Well,
parking.
that's the whole issue I have.
It's so,
I mean, in one spot here, we got like 6 cameras stockpiled. Something
Even
happened.
just to put up exit signs
Yeah.
well, I
would
think
be big.
the point that you
Chocolate
have,
block.
one vehicle per
Camper.
site, and I guess it's overnight parking, not camping, I don't know.
Well, I think we ought to ask the state to come down and talk to us on this whole issue too, what they're going to permit and what we need to be looking for. They can educate us a little bit on the whole issue.
Yeah.
They don't burn if something happened.
Yeah.
Maybe getting some word from Mr.
Go ahead,
Sullivan.
Julie.
Since we're doing the non-parking park lot,
It's quite the place.
Yeah.
not for
Yes.
spot two.
Yes.
Because there's nothing that you're not using any services. It's all self-contained. You have your own tanks, your own water.
All I can think of
But
is
the
Randy
problem-
Quaid.
The biggest problem we have is disorganization for emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
Because when we were there, they said you could park anywhere.
Mhm.
That's the problem.
In what my goal is, whether overnight parking or fun, I just want the people in town that need to know what's going on in town to know what's going on in town.
Mhm.
Fire chief
Thank
wants to know if people are doing overnight parking at a site on a regular
That's my
basis.
fear.
He needs to know.
Yeah.
Another question.
Sorry.
Jim Thomas's progress on the maps and such?
The maps were done and they're beautiful.
Okay.
But, and those maps were not changed in any way. They were updated. There was no zoning changes.
Okay.
But the office decided that it had to have a lot of public hearings, which we didn't have time to have, so they couldn't get on the warrant this year, which means they can't get on the warrant until 2024, right? Which makes me kind of sad, but he did a beautiful job. And he's even offering, if anybody's interested, he even somehow, and I'm not a computer person, but somehow he linked that database with Google Maps. So I can go on.
Oh, okay.
It's just like the GIS maps that I used when I worked in other towns. So I'm not sure if we need the GIS maps. He's offered to come in and do training to everybody here. Yeah.
We want GIS.
Excellent.
Because there's a number of towns, I think Wyndham's one of them, where you can do the Google overlay. And it doesn't matter, you just go on, click on the site, it downloads tax maps and everything over. But the other wonderful nice thing about GIS, is the different layers that can be added on top of
And you
it.
can, we did that in Acton, that if anybody came in and pulled a building permit, I could switch on a layer and it would tell me whether it was in tree growth or not, which is very important when you're doing a permit.
Yes.
I mean, that's good information to have, so I don't know, but he did a really commendable job.
Now, is the training predicated upon the town approving the map?
No,
Okay,
it's just to show us how to use it.
great.
And it's part of, he came in under his, the budget that we approved, so he's going to use that money for the training.
Nice, we like under budget.
Yeah, I think,
He's a pretty sharp guy.
yeah.
I worked with him 30 years ago.
Oh, well,
Is there anything else? I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
All that want to stay?
You are a comedian.
So Kevin, how was your first day?
Excellent.
good meeting, guys. No, go.
well, since we were here,
Yes.
ta-da.